Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So my video today is going to be on keybinds and everything that I do to kind of get my keybinds set up. And you're going to notice that there's going to be a lot of different things that transfer between some of the different jobs that I play, especially in the same role, like healer keybinds versus tank keybinds. DPS is going to be a bit all over the place, though, I'm not going to lie. So in this video we are going to go over all the different buttons that I choose, things like resizing the elements, things like, how would I even say it, like different hotbar setups, how I involve other complex UI elements like the fairies or cards. What this video is not going to do though is macros. I am actually working together with one of my raid members who is actually a genuine expert on macros, and we're going to be kind of collaborating on that one and trying to get you the best content that I can on that one. But yeah, that's going to be everything for this video. So if that sounds great to you, strap on in and let's go. So first of all, in terms of keybinds, I have to say I really find that I struggle to hit anything past the 6 key on my own. And so what you've probably noticed in the videos is that you're going to see that I have the skills that I hit the most between the 1 and 6 key, and that generally speaking you will sometimes see me hunt and peck with my mouse. I've just noticed over the years, I don't know if that's even like the best habit. I definitely know that there is some pushback for some clicking, but in my experience that generally works the best for me. And usually what I've done is I'll put the skills that I really need to think about if I want to push or not on the further keys like that. So let's take one of my common setups. In particular, we're looking at the Machinist right now, in case you aren't overly familiar with these tooltips. And so you're going to see that between 1 and 6 key, those skills are going to be ones that you hit very, very often. And so this involves things like the 1-2-3 combo rotation, it involves things like drill, but you're going to notice that another set of skills that I should be pressing a lot are actually on very different buttons. And I'll get to those in a second, but generally speaking, that's generally where I come from. Whether it's because my hands are honestly like super ultra small or not, or whatever it is, I just struggle to kind of like hit the control key and go further. And actually that segues very nicely into what my top bar is. So you see this base bottom bar here with this 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. That is, generally speaking, just going to be hitting any of the number keys baseline. I actually am on a keyboard where hitting the control keys is actually pretty hard. So what I end up doing is that the second bar above it is going to actually be hitting the control key plus whatever number key is going to be associated directly below it. So things like Gauss Round and Ricochet are going to be on Control 1 and Control 2 keys right now. And so that's how I kind of go at it with those ones. And yeah, that's like the baseline bar. So nothing too interesting at this point. I even think that comes out of the box. Correct me if I'm wrong on that though. But what does get a bit more interesting is when we start talking about my sidebar. So this little bar over here. And so this is where things like experiences that I have had with other games really does come into play. And I've been thinking about like, oh, would I ever recommend like a Razer Naga mouse or that? And I'm like, no, I really wouldn't. I really think that this doesn't need anything that fancy. In fact, all my mouse really has is it has like a scroll wheel that you can press. It has an back and forward mouse thing. It's nothing too fancy, really. You should be able to do this with most modern mice, in fact, I'd say. And so all I have is, you can see that I have Automaton Queen on mouse 4. You can see that I actually have Overheat on mouse 5. And then actually, it's not really shown that well here, but I actually have involved in a lot of my setups the middle scroll button. And so that's kind of getting the mouse out of the way. And I'm finding that, honestly, my response time with a lot of the mouse presses is a lot quicker than even some of my key presses. And so I do actually recommend this to everyone, basically, to slot in there. You will have to think, if you're using the mouse as something like a Discord talk button or something like that, you are going to have to definitely take that into account a little bit. But I've really had no real issues. Yeah, from there I'm actually going to involve a few different buttons, which I know are going to be really weird to a lot of people. So if you've ever played the game Overwatch, you have surely played a few different characters. Like, you've probably played Lucio, you've probably played Mercy, or a whole bunch of others, and you've noticed that with Overwatch in particular, it involves things like the E key and the Q key. And in particular, I am actually using those as like my primary keybinds. And so how I at least play Final Fantasy XIV is that I'm going to play a lot with the WASD keys just to move around my character, as well as the R key. The R key is sacred to me because I like auto move forward. I don't always like to be holding down the W key, especially during some mechanics where I know that I want to be particularly maneuvering a little bit more with the mouse. And so nearby to the W key, right beside it, are quite literally Q and E. And then other keys that are very similar to it are F and G even are involved on here. So you're going to see on particular for this character that G is going to be for limit break, F is going to be for reload, you're going to see E for the aerial anchor, and then you're going to see Q for hotshot. And so I took a lot of inspiration from Overwatch over this period of time and kind of blended it in there. But I wasn't really fully satisfied with just stopping there, and so I actually involved using Control plus mouse 3 key. In fact, that is pretty common across all of my characters for that to be the knockback prevention ability, Arm's Length, or Surecast on casters. And so for me, it's just very easy for me to hold down the control button, press the middle mouse button, the scroll button, so that M3, and then that works really well. Other options that I have used, but I use them much less, is to have Shift key being held and then another button. I think that it would be really cool if maybe I had a hotbar set up with the Shift key that would like swap like the hotbars like that. I haven't done anything that fancy. I know that you definitely can with macros, though. You could almost think about it like if you played like Overwatch as like swapping between modes with Lucio and just like, oh, I'm going to use this mode with this hotbar, oh, I'm going to use this other mode with this hotbar. But generally speaking, if I'm being super honest, for most characters, between having the 1 through equal sign, having the control 1 through control equal sign, having the Q, E, F, G, having the up and down mouse button, or I mean back and forward mouse button, and then the scroll wheel button, I have really not struggled to find a keybind for something. Even on classes that are arguably more quote-unquote busy, like the Scholar. Like, let me pop up with my Scholar build for a second. And so even for my Scholar build, you can see that it follows the exact same principles. Only for now, you can actually see that I use the place command on the bottom mouse button, and I just use that, I don't know, because I've done that for years, I just find it very easy to instantly just place it where I want them on the battlefield. Same thing for Summoner. When I'm placing it near bosses, if you go to my Ultimate Summoner guide, come at my Bahamut bro, you're going to notice that it's basically put over there. But one thing that you can definitely notice here is that people are probably going to be like, oh, how are you summoning Big Fairy? And if you look down at this other bottom sidebar, is that you actually can see it on Shift plus the 1 key and Shift plus the 2 key, which you didn't see before. But when it comes to each class, it's going to definitely have its own kind of hotbar setup here. And with the Summoner, Scholar, my apologies, it came down to the point where I did really want my Shift bar to be a more special bar, a little bit more sacred. I know you can see emotes in there, just roll with it with me, please. I'm not gonna lie to you though. But yeah, basically it just became the bar for the dumping ground for Seraph's skills, because Seraph's skills, ironically enough, well, not ironically enough, why do people say ironic? Now I'm saying ironic. But basically it became the dumping ground for Seraph's skills. But as you can see, there's not too much variation there. You can see that, hey, I'm using 1 through equal sign, I'm using control 1 through control = for just various skills. But one thing that should actually be noted here that is pretty unique is that I usually use the 1 through whatever skills as more DPS section, and then I'm using control plus those as more of a healing section. But it really should be said that that all really does come down to preference. I think years and years ago when I started playing MMORPGs, that a heal skill was like originally binded or something. Heck, maybe it was even just through evolution, because I remember MUDs, but I digress. But some point during my MMORPG career, control plus 1 was like basic heal skill, and ever since then I've kind of rolled with it. Really, it's unfortunately that basic on why. There's no hidden secret here. But one thing that I should note here is that you probably don't notice that there's a fairy bar. And yeah, how to explain that? With Shadowbringers, the Scholar got quite an overhaul. An overhaul that I'm still working on a video in the background about how I want to approach complaining about it, which we'll talk about that later, and I feel very justified. I've played Scholar since the Realm Reborn, and but the fairy skills basically were made into our own skills, and so basically I demolished that bar, if I'm being super honest. We always had the ability to use macros with the yeah of course, but what I really did was I just put those bar skills onto, or well, the new skills that we have in our menu, and then I just put them into different keybinds on the hotbars. That's really all I did. So the pet bar itself became kind of a nuisance, and so I'm like, hide this nasty UI element. It's just like, it's just filled with garbage that I don't need to see, if I'm being super honest. And now let's get into enlarging icons here. And so this is actually through a particular user interface modification that you can access through, as I'm showing on the screen right now. And likewise, you can expand a bar to whatever size you want. You can put whatever skills you want. Generally speaking though, is I will put my absolute biggest, most important skills on this bar, like the skills that I really want to know at every single point of time. Do I have it or do I not? Like my biggest of my biggest cooldowns. Like on Scholar, it's going to be Sraf or it's going to be Dissipation. And if we are looking at the Machinist, it's going to be things like Drill or Aerial Anchor or a few others, but those are the two big ones I think for me. And yeah, it's basically this bar is meant to just really keep me aware about my most important skills and if I have them up, or how long it's going to be till they're up. As well as it makes the cooldown wheel a little larger. You're going to see that in the Ultimate Machinist guide that I definitely rely on that cooldown wheel quite a bit, if I'm being super honest. And yeah, that kind of ends that section, and I kind of want to end this video off by saying kind of my approach with the skills going after the 6, because I did say that right at the start of the video, is like, I mostly can only reach with my hands through 1 to 6 key, yeah, tiny hands, whatever, but I have the 7 and the rest of the keys. I will literally click them, and you're gonna notice, like if I swap to tank right now, that you're gonna see that these are mostly gonna be cooldowns for tanks, or it's just gonna be things like the Scholar had Chain Stratagem there with Swift Cast and Resurrect. And some people can make an argument, a great argument, for Swift Cast not being on there and instead being on a quicker keybind, but really if I'm using Swift Cast, it's usually a really weird scenario, and I've gone just through practice so snappy with reviving people, and yeah, that's about all I really have to say for that. Is just usually these are going to be slower skills or skills like Sacred Soil that you need to place, and so I just click that and then I drag it there, or hit the 4 key. I mean with the Scholar, no hidden secrets there. And yeah, that's kind of everything that I have to say about my keybinds and my setup for this. So I hope that that was actually really informative for everyone, and that hopefully I taught a few people a few new neat tips and tricks. And yeah. Oh, one last thing is that I do want to totally talk about the focus target bar, because I actually do find that very important. And so I don't know if all people know about this, but it's something that I have used extensively, and in fact in almost all of my raids you're gonna see me target something. Like right now I'm just targeting the striking dummy, then I'll click focus target. And so one thing that is really fantastic about this is that it will actually show the cast bar of the target on that. And so this is very important for me, especially when I'm healing, and you're gonna notice that it's really close to the rest of the party bars. I mean, I'm not in a full party right now, but basically this lets me just at a glance see, like, is my target actually casting something? And if it's casting something, it's going to tell me what, which lets me anticipate, do I need to put a shield on someone else, or do I need to maybe prepare for like an AoE heal for me to just like top up the entire party. And so that, I know that that's not so much keybinds or hotkeys or anything like that, but in terms of user interface, I think that that is actually a super important point. And actually, I know it's over 15 minutes already, so don't say I'm trying to make it over 10 minutes, please. But kind of like the jaw specific gauges, you're gonna notice I kind of inch it a little bit to the right side and a little bit above, and that's because I just naturally find that it's really nice to just keep it really in view, and that when I'm monitoring my cooldowns, I literally will be looking at like the top bars. Because one of the things about those skills that you see at the top, so they were like tank cooldowns and all that, they aren't like super urgent. Like you're gonna see train stratagem there, and you're gonna be like, why isn't that on the biggest bar within large skills? Isn't that super important? Are you saying chain stratagem's not important? Are you saying chain stratagem's not important? I can already see the comments, and yes, it's important, no doubt, just like Swiftcast is important. But what I use that for in this instance is I will usually keep track of most of the super important but not as direly important skills at this top bar, and so my eyes will kind of flick up and down, back and forth in this section, and kind of it just having the fairy gauge there and the aether flow gauge right there really makes it really easy for me to have my eyes flick around less. And so things like, oh, do you want to use Aether Pact on like an ally and have your fairy have a boosted heal on them? Well, you can see that the fairy gauge is right there, right by your cooldowns, keeping track. Oh, I'm at 90 fairy gauge. Maybe I should be using that. Or maybe I'm at 3 Aether Flow and Dissipation's coming up and I really want to use Dissipation. So ultimately, there isn't really any big hidden secret with why I do what I do, and yeah. I'm really hoping that this video actually went and helped a lot of people, and as always, any likes, comments, and subscribes are super duper appreciated. I cannot say how far they go to help me. They make a incredibly big impact, and I thank you all so much for all the support lately. It's been so awesome, honestly. Updates are that I do have a Discord. The link is actually going to be down in the description below. I am trying to be a little bit more active on Twitter, and yeah, just lots of revamps coming. I know a lot of people are probably seeing the new icon for this channel and going, what the heck are you doing? And yeah, there are a lot of updates coming along, and that's kind of been what's soaking up most of my time outside of work. But yeah, thank you all for your support, and lots of great stuff to come, promise. Anyhow, hope to catch you on the next video, and thank you so much for watching, and take care and have a good one.